What is up, everyone? It is Tuesday. Well, it's not October 29th anymore. It is definitely November 5th. Still don't have the right one. We'll rock with this one for right now. I like week 8 better. More round number. We'll get to the correct one here soon. We're here not to talk about my mess up here with the background. We are here to talk about week 10 waiver wire additions for your fantasy football squads. I'm Nate Polvogt. Next to me is Mr. Mike Reedy, the author of the Moneymakers and Heartbreakers article you should be reading every week for DFS, which we'll get to that on Friday. But today, we have some interesting situations. NFL trade deadline was today. The biggest move, in my opinion, was Marshawn Lattimore goes to the Commanders, making their secondary significantly better out of the gate for week 10.
Weakest part of their defense just got better.
100%. So, yeah, I mean, that was the biggest move. We got Jonathan Mingo getting moved. Not really that excited about that. Maybe an uptick for Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker. Maybe. But Mingo on the Cowboys just isn't exciting to me.
He wasn't doing much on the Panthers, so.
No. He was an iffy prospect to me to begin with as a rookie, so I don't really care about that. The most interesting offensive move, though, Mike, that we have seen, Khalil Herbert of the Chicago Bears, a guy that I love the talent. He has moved on to the Cincinnati Bengals as Zach Moss heads to IR. Probably the most interesting move. Are we worried about Chase Brown with this, though, Mike?
I don't know. I think he's still probably the lead back, and Khalil will be the backup. I kind of was hoping Khalil would get a large portion somewhere. Could end up a 50-50 split. It depends on how they feel about Chase Brown. He's been good so far, right, with Zach Moss taking a secondary role and being hurt. Yeah. I think Chase Brown has been good, but Herbert's a little more dynamic, I think, than Zach Moss was and should get a share of that backfield. I would love a 50-50 split.
I would too. Khalil Herbert's such a talented pass catching back as well. And his efficiency is fantastic, which is why I really was confused why he wasn't getting more work in Chicago. DeAndre Swift has been better than I thought he would be, though. So that's probably a big part of it.
He has been. The Chicago coaching staff has made numerous questionable decisions, though, throughout games, as well as planning for who they're going to play where. So it's interesting. Swift has been really good there, though. He found a home. I'm happy for Herbert to get out of there because I think he wasn't going to ever touch the ball with the Bears. So I'd like to see a 50-50 split here. I think it benefits both guys. I know people hate that and we want a bell cow back, but not sure either one of these guys are cut out for the bell cow role.
Well, there just aren't a lot of bell cow backs in the NFL anymore. Chuba Hubbard's kind of one in Carolina, but just simply because they don't have any other options. I'm sure Canales would love to have something else there. We'll get a little bit more into this as we get into the show. We do have a few questions in the chat here I want to drop out. Jason Williams, who's been waiting since 1:40 p.m. Mountain Standard Time for this question. Mike, he wants to know, should he hold the Washington defense now that they've added Marshawn Lattimore, or should he target the Pittsburgh defense, the Arizona defense against the Jets, the Giants defense against Carolina, the Atlanta defense against New Orleans, or the Rams defense against Miami? Which way are you going here?
Are you just streaming for 1 week? If you're just streaming for 1 week, I actually kind of like the Giants against Carolina for a 1 week streamer. If you're thinking rest of season, which is kind of what I usually do with a defense in season long, I would add Pitt and just hold on to them out of this group.
That's what I would say too. Pittsburgh is the defense to hold rest of season. If you're streaming Giants versus Carolina, I don't hate the Rams against Miami either. That would be an interesting stream.
Oh, no, I don't either. That's a nice streamer too. Yeah.
Yep. We've got Stonks on YouTube. He wants to know, he traded Lamar for Burrow and Collins. Did he lose? He's in first place at 7-2, so he can wait for Nico Collins. I don't know that I'd want to give up Lamar for Burrow and Collins, but also if you're in first place, I mean, I think you're going to be okay with that trade. Plus adding Collins once he gets healthy, that could be a lot of points.
If you needed the wide receiver help, and this is a case where Burrow is close enough to Lamar where the offsetting of Nico gives you a boost all around for your like weekly average, it's a good move, right? I'm usually on the side of the one player when you're making a trade 2 for 1. But if you just got two starters that you think are going to really improve your team, I think you won, right?
Yep.
I don't know the rest of your roster and what's going on there, but that's how I look at it. Make that starting roster better. If this did
Yep.
it, and it did, yeah, you won.
Yeah, and if you're 7-2, I mean, obviously your roster is pretty solid at this
That'd be pretty
point.
good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we've got Aaron Hudson also on YouTube. PPR league, a guy struggling in his league said he would take his Rico Dowdle and trade him out for Tyreek Hill. Would you make this move? He's stacked at wide receiver, Mike. He's got JSN, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Malik Neighbors, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, and Jamison Williams. Running back, he's got CMC, who could be back this week, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, and Rico Dowdle, and Tank Bigsby, I'm sorry. Yeah.
You're trading Dowdle away? Do it. Yeah.
Yeah, to get Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Stacked at wide receiver is relative here, right? Because Mike Evans is still hurt. DK Metcalf missed last week. Malik Neighbors is in an offense with Daniel Jones. DeAndre Hopkins has looked good. So, and JMO, there's a lot surrounding him right now that's up in the air.
Coaster, even
he's a roller coaster. Right? So, yeah, get Tyreek Hill. That's going to bolster your wide receiver core. I like that. I think it's a good move.
Crazy trade.
Yes. Some more good moves that we think you should make. We're going to start with waiver wire quarterbacks, Mike. It isn't a great landscape, but guys who are available right now in the majority of leagues, Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, 16% in Yahoo, 21% on ESPN. Aaron Rodgers of the New York Jets, 43% on Yahoo, 52% on ESPN. Bo Nix in Denver after a down week, 25% on Yahoo, 57% on ESPN. Then two, right around 10%, we've got Drake May in New England and Danny Jones with the Giants. Let's start with Daniel Jones because he looked good and he has a good schedule coming up.
That's the key, right? He played an easy – the matchup was easy this week, and he looked good. What people aren't understanding when they're saying how bad he sucked is those have been some really tough matchups. This guy has such an easy schedule the rest of the way, even with the bye week mixed in there. Very, very, very easy schedule. So, if you're in a 2 QB league or you're hurting at quarterback and you play in a league where everybody has two or three quarterbacks rostered and Danny Jones is out there, I would take a poke at him, right? That schedule, he's probably going to be good for around 20 points every single week, even though you might think he sucks. And that's pretty good.
The thing is, right?
That's pretty goddamn good.
Sucks is relative because I want the quarterback who's going to pull out 54 rushing yards on 7 carries and get a touchdown in a game. Danny Dimes is one of those guys that can do that. And for the schedule coming up, Carolina, and then they've got the bye week, Tampa Bay, Dallas, New Orleans, Baltimore, Atlanta, and then Indianapolis at home in the fantasy championships. That's a cake schedule. Yep. And he's a guy who, in some of those matchups, he can creep into QB1 territory as a top 12 guy who you're starting as your second quarterback.
He will creep into QB1 territory, right? So it sounds. I took some heat, by the way, when I tweeted that out that I would have him as an ad at quarterback. I took some heat. He won't even be starting. All right, then New York starting quarterback is a guy you might want to add, but it's going to be him. There's no rumors out of New York City that they're benching him. Not that I've heard. So
for Drew Lock, come on. You don't pay a guy $140 million to bench him for Drew Lock.
No, that's not who people think will start.
Oh, Tommy DeVito? Come on.
Tommy DeVito, the third stringer, is not jumping over Drew Lock to become the starter. Sorry.
Guys, that was a fun story last year. You loved it. His agent, whatever his name was, that was just so beautiful. It was so much fun, man. I loved it. Be realistic. Daniel Jones is a starter in New York, and he's worth an ad in 2 QB leagues. I feel the same way about Drake May, Mike.
Talk about running yardage, right? And the Konami code of quarterbacks. This guy led the Pats in rushing this week.
95 yards.
I'm a Patriots fan. He is the real deal. He's probably the second best quarterback in this draft. I'm sorry, I don't think it's Caleb Williams. I think it's Drake
not.
Drake May has lifted this team up every time he's out there. I mean, the touchdown that tied the game up was kind of a fluky looking pass that got caught, but he slipped 5 tackles, 5 to do that. Are you muted?
It was a smart football play, that pass.
Yeah.
He knew he was going to get sacked. He did everything he could to avoid the sack. And when he got to that point where he threw the ball, he knew it's now or never. He looked at that corner of the end zone.
Catch it or he's not.
He saw 2 receivers that he knew would come back to the ball. I thought it was a smart football play. And those are the kinds of things I want to see out of these guys. You don't see that kind of headiness out of Anthony Richardson. You're not seeing it out of Caleb Williams necessarily either.
No,
Drake May hasn't started as long as these guys, and he's already doing it.
Yeah, you're not. That's the kind of play you're not seeing. Like
right.
The DJ Moore walked off the field thing where he was coming back for the ball and Caleb didn't even look his way. Right. And that's heck, DeAndre Hopkins was making a bunch of plays like this with Mahomes last night where I don't even know if he knew where he was supposed to be on the field with the plays, but he found a way to get into an open space and get the ball. And,
well, that's what great receivers do.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. And like we talked about last week, it's not my being down on Hopkins going to Kansas City wasn't about the talent. We know how talented he is. He's an elite wide receiver. It was the opportunity going to be there in an offense that we've seen slow down significantly, a team that's relying on defense. The answer, Mike, is he's going to see plenty of volume.
Week 1, anyways, he did with the team. We'll see what happens as the rest of the season goes. I felt the same way you did because I know how they're playing. And if Isaiah Pacheco comes back, they'll run even more. And then they're running a lot still. Yeah. But if they've narrowed that passing tree down to just a couple of branches and Hopkins is one of them, it won't matter. He'll have like Rashi Rice numbers from earlier in the season the rest of the way, which is basically what he did last night. There's not a lot of competition.
No. Justin Watson, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Juju will be competition when he's back because he's actually a very smart football player, and that's how come he fits in with Mahomes too. He did not fit in with the Patriots unfortunately. He was also hurt, I think, the whole time. But
pertinent question popping into the chat here. Iggy wants to know, would you guys trade May and Reed for Tua and Harrison? Yes, I would make that deal because the upgrade from Tua to Drake May in one quarterback is so significant, in my opinion. And Reed and Harrison, I feel like Harrison just isn't seeing that volume. He's floating right around wide receiver 29, wide receiver 30 in PPR. It's not that impressive.
Like a flipping value there, right? Like you move on one position down at the other, and it depends on what your need is. But yeah.
In a vacuum, I would make this deal without knowing anything else about your league. So now back to quarterbacks. These last 3 here, these are some bigger names, a little bit higher rostership here, especially on ESPN. But out of these 3, Mike, which one do you think rest of season is going to be more valuable on rosters? Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, or Bo Nix in Denver?
So I would have said Aaron Rodgers, but Mike Williams got traded to Pittsburgh today, and that gives Russ a big target who can go over the top in the red zone, in the end zone, right? So he likes players like that, and having somebody else across from George Pickens. Russell Wilson, you and I have talked about it a bunch of times. People talk like he was horrible last season. He was not horrible last season. Mike Williams is pretty good. The addition of Mike Williams to Pittsburgh helps Wilson more than anybody else. So out of those 3 guys, I think I like him the most. Rodgers is going to produce with his 2 guys, by the way, as well. Yeah, I'm not opposed to adding either one of those. Bo Nix would be the last guy for me, mostly because he had a super simple matchup this week and he kind of crapped out a little, which means he's not just going to beat up on the bad teams like I thought he would.
It's funny. We had Bob Harris from Football Diehards and Football Guys on the Q&A show last week on Friday, and we talked a lot about Bo Nix, and he was very high on Bo Nix going into this week. And I was looking at the matchup and I thought, this is supposed to be an easy one, but Baltimore's defense can step up if they absolutely have to. They're not great, but they're better than a lot of other defenses in the league. And with a rookie quarterback, that a veteran coaching staff can rattle. I knew it wasn't going to go well for Knicks. One of these games was coming. And as a Broncos fan, I needed it to be this week, this past week, and not this coming week.
But he's played very well overall.
Yeah.
I'm impressed with Bo Nix, by the way.
I am too.
In leagues, I would want him as well. So
Russell Wilson, though, for me, would be the guy here too. And the Mike Williams trade really kind of puts it over the top for me. That's what he's been missing. I equate it to if you gave Russell Wilson Chase Claypool his rookie season without all of the headiness and all of the BS surrounding all of that. And that's going to be huge for Russ. And it's going to be big for Pittsburgh. This is a team that I'm excited to see what they do going forward.
It's a very good football team. They made the move because they look at their record and they look at the other teams in the division, and they haven't played anybody else in the division yet. And they know if they want to try to stay on top where they are, they had to do something, right? So,
yeah,
good coaching staff. They acquired a good player. We'll get to see how this pans out, but I think it helps Wilson more than even Williams. It'll help Wilson out a lot.
Yeah. Do you have any interest in rostering Mike Williams?
Nah.
With the move?
He would need to prove it to me. There's wide receivers we're going to talk about I would want over him right now.
Yeah. I'm with you. I want to see how it goes. I think that's my number one thing. Like, how's this going to play out? Is he going to get the usage, or is this just kind of a useless like Allen Robinson edition like last season where
he might just be touchdown dependent, right? And that's how I see it working out. I think it helps Pickens out a lot, right? As well. But Wilson's the beneficiary from this, the primary guy who benefits the most.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move on, Mike, to running backs here. This is a much uglier affair than any other position. At this point, let's talk about Khalil Herbert first, because we already started talking about that a little bit. He's now in Cincinnati.
Should he be the top ad at running back?
He should be the top ad.
Yeah.
Who else? I mean, look at this list. We'll just go through the guys.
The only other person I would consider as the top ad for a running back, that is.
Oh, I completely agree. Otherwise, you're looking at Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, and Tyler Algier as being pretty much the only other people that are even worth looking at on the wire. Khalil Herbert's in Cincinnati. We touched on this at the beginning of the show. Zach Moss is on IR. It needs to be a 1B for Chase Brown. Chase Brown's still the 1A. Yep. Khalil Herbert's not going to take that role. And it's going to take I don't have a lot of hope for him doing much this week in the offense. He'll get some carries.
I already have a couple of claims in for him, though, right?
Yes, so and you should.
Yeah, and that's because I think this is not a one next week plug and play type of addition. This is see how it goes. He's going to need to get acclimated to the team a little bit. We'll see if they try to get him in there his first week with them.
I think he'll play. I do think he'll play. It's against Baltimore. They haven't been stellar against the run. I think if he gets 5 to 10 carries, he could be someone you maybe, if you have to start him in a flex spot, you could. With tempered expectations, I like to say, in these situations. But otherwise, Mike, like these are all handcuff guys for the most part. Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, and Tyler Algier especially. They're not going to get work unless the guy ahead of them goes down. We got excited about Braylon Allen. He looks good, but Breece Hall is Breece Hall.
Well, once they fired Saleh, Braylon Allen went back to not playing at all, right? So
yeah,
he's a couple of snaps here and there, maybe 2 or 3 touches a game right now. That's it. So they all those other guys need somebody to get hurt. Ray Davis has some standalone value with his limited touches because he's super efficient. I thought of you when he ripped off that big touchdown this past week because I thought it was going to be a James Cook game. James Cook scored Miami the first time around, and essentially Buffalo running back scorched them again the second time around. Ray Davis is involved, and he's going to be. And, man, he's efficient. He's too good to not get more touches.
Yeah, he's just far too good. And the receiving work, that's what I like. And it's not a ton, but when he gets the ball, he does something with it. 70 yards receiving last week. And, yeah, one of those was the big, long touchdown. But at what point do we realize this is kind of what he's like an Xavier Worthy running back in Buffalo, where you're just he could boom every week. And if James Cook gets hurt, this guy is going to take over all of that volume and be a must start. So Khalil Herbert, 1, Ray Davis is probably my second priority. The rest of these guys, unless you have their 1A,
I would look the wide receiver and not bother. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to do that. We're just going to move straight on to wide receivers. This is a little more fun. The first one I want to talk about, I added him at the bottom. We'll be real quick about this. Cedric Tillman, 31 targets, 21 catches over the last 3 games, 3 touchdowns.
I would have put him as the top guy, by the way, as well. But he's almost 60% roster in Yahoo, and he's just below 50% in ESPN. So if he's still out there in your league, he should be the top waiver ad out of everyone.
100%. I think my number 2, though, is going to be Quentin Johnston.
So I like those Chargers wide receivers, both Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer, with upside. Johnston came back from that ankle injury and just, best game of his career.
Well, so what I think is interesting, and I touched on this in my waiver article, San Diego, the Chargers are throwing the ball at almost a 60% clip the last 3 weeks.
Yep.
They're one of the top 15 passing offenses in the league now. They figured out how to do it and how to do it efficiently. McConkey's going to eat. But Quentin Johnston, all of the issues that we saw with him last year, and I think a lot of us were really wondering what the Chargers were thinking, taking him where they did. He looked like a really raw prospect to all of us. And then the disappointment, but he's worked on things and he's turned into an NFL caliber receiver finally. This offense is going to keep throwing the ball because it's working. Quentin Johnston's the wide receiver 1. McConkey's the wide receiver 2.
Yeah. I was surprised Xavier Legette was out there in so many places, by the way, as well. I know we went through a few weeks ago where he was a top ad, and then it seemed like everybody let him go. I had to plug and play him in some desperation spots this week. And when I added him, he was in my weekend waiver ad article too. But I was legit like, I can't believe this guy's out here everywhere. I thought he was added, but he wasn't.
Nope.
And the Ray McLeod, who's available almost everywhere as well. If Drake London can't play, you want to play Ray McLeod.
100%.
I have a league I'm in first place in where everybody was out. My biggest desperation play was I added Ray McLeod and plugged him in because there's some return yardage in that league as well. And then he scored a touchdown after London got a concussion. And I was like, oh, wow, these guys are going to think I'm a genius. But I'm not. I just got lucky, but I'll take it.
But that's 3/4 of this, especially when we get to this part of the season. We're trying to find these guys to add on waiver wires. I remember the first year I did waiver wire in this industry. It was 2020, and it was with Fantasy Intervention. I was on with Chase, Vernon, and the FF Chef every week doing waiver wires on Tuesdays. And we got to
by the way, and hi, Chef and Chase, if you watch us.
Yeah. Chase, I think, does actually. He tunes in. We talk about it a little bit. You get to this point in the season. I remember looking down some of these rosters and just being like, I never knew, because my home leagues, it's like you're dealing with people that don't, you don't have to get that deep most seasons. And then you see the guy.
DMC got hurt. Who's his backup? Yeah, everybody can tell you who that is, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you get to this point, and it just gets ugly. Even with wide receivers, 2 really solid ads this week with Cedric Tillman and Quentin Johnston. Legette's a good ad. I'm surprised he's not more rostered, but also you have to temper your expectations for him because it's Carolina.
Yeah.
And we don't know who's starting going forward. Volume's going to be there.
But he has touchdowns in 2 straight games, and the volume's going to be there. I wasn't doing Coker. I know all the Coke heads out there were like, yeah, Coker. I mean, he's just too raw. I was hoping they'd trade Adam Thielen today. Didn't happen, at least not that I know of.
Oh, yeah, we passed the deadline, so that's all clear.
So we'll see how this pans out, but it's probably going to be Thielen and Legette the only ones worth having there. And again, they're pretty touchdown dependent. I mean,
yeah. What about Ricky Pearsall with CMC possibly coming back? Is that how much do you think that hurts his value?
So a lot. Same with Juwan Jennings. Like, I'm out on both of them, to be honest. Once CMC's back, I think you're going to see Kittle still heavily involved, Debo healthy, heavily involved, and CMC will be completely involved in that passing game more than Mason ever would have been. So,
of course. Well, that's his bread and butter. He had 100 reception season earlier in his career. So
yeah. You're moving to the fourth and fifth option on the team for those guys. Roller coaster ads.
Yeah, if you're in Dynasty, obviously you're holding Pearsall at this point. You're not going to move on from him. But we are going to move on because these wide receivers, I think we've touched on everyone you should add and probably shouldn't add. Tight ends. This is a fun one. Hunter Henry is going to be the first one. And I can't believe he's not more rostered.
With the height of his floor, I mean, he's getting the bad game's 9 points. I can't believe he's not more rostered as well. Because he's a floor play. The volume seems to be there every single week. I know he's probably not going to get you 20 points, but tight end's a tough position. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's top 10 in scoring as a tight end and available almost everywhere. I mean, well, not almost everywhere, but he's only 36% rostered on Yahoo and 40% rostered on ESPN. So over 60% of the leagues, this guy's out there.
I don't get it. And while he hasn't had a touchdown since week 6, Mike, 9 targets, 6 targets, and 8 targets his last 3 games, 8 catches, 5 catches, 7 catches, above 45 yards receiving in all 3 games. In PPR leagues, that's just simple volume. And in tight end premium leagues, that's like league-winning production.
People are hoping that the bigger name tight end that they drafted early will produce. And there's a lot of advice out there, as you know, where people will tell them, stick it out, ride it out, you'll see. If you're losing riding it out, do not stick it out. If you're winning riding it out, go ahead and stick it out and wait and see. But if you're losing, do something like play Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I don't know why people think Jaheim Bell's going to do anything this season. He's not.
I don't know.
It's not how it works with tight ends, people. I mean, the Brock Bowers and even Trey McBride saw very minimal work until Ertz kind of got hurt. Now, Mike Gesicki. Wow.
If T. Higgins doesn't play, by the way, if you didn't notice that trend, if T. Higgins not playing, Mike Gesicki is a very good play in fantasy.
Yes.
Very good. How many catches? 100 yards this week? I don't remember how many catches. I'm sorry.
He's got 5 catches. He had 5 catches for 100 yards, 2 tutties.
So T. Higgins is going to miss more time. I don't know specifically what's really wrong with him with this injury, but when T plays, he looks great, to be honest. But if he doesn't play, Gesicki looks really good, and he is the second option if T. Higgins isn't there and Burrow's throwing the ball. So I like him.
He's a big, sure-handed slot receiver that you can rely on. He catches the ball. The season in Miami when he was like tight end 3 on the season, that's why, because he gets his hands on the ball and he brings it down.
He really reliable. Is a slot receiver too, and he's not really a tight end. But I mean, it whatever. It's
yeah.
The next guy's not really a tight end either. He's a fullback.
Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is a fullback. It's true. He is.
And if those running backs are out more time for the Saints, Taysom Hill, this played out exactly how we talked about it on the DFS show, by the way.
Yeah, it did.
The thing we talked about was Kamara's probably going to get 200 yards. And you were like, yeah, it could be 100 each. It wasn't 100 each, but it was still 200 yards.
Yep.
And we didn't have Taysom Hill as somebody to play, but we talked about him with Kamara because the running back injuries, we found out nobody else was playing on Friday. Yep. And we said, Taysom Hill's going to run the ball a lot, and he's probably going to vulture a touchdown. And boom, that's exactly what happened. Know? Yeah, that offense is better when Hill's in it because he's
hard to scheme for. And you never know where he's going to line up.
And they have to pay attention to him because he's a monster.
Yeah.
So Taysom Hill, in all honesty, last year he had 11 straight games with 10 points or more. I know people like to say that he's frustrating because it's you don't know when his good game's going to be. He had a whole, maybe it was 7. But anyways, the second half of the season, he didn't score less than 10 points, Taysom Hill, for the Saints. You could see that kind of production again from him. I'm of the frame of mind with someone like him, if you're struggling at tight end, which most everybody is, give him an ad. If you don't want to play him right away, see what happens. because he's the kind of guy that can change your fantasy season if they're going to give him the touches like they did this week. And it was all running the football and catching the football, but he's the goal line back if healthy. So it's
Well, we don't know when Jamal Williams is going to be back, and Kendre Miller. What a weird situation with him. But I do have a little bit more hope for this New Orleans offense, just with Dennis Allen finally out of the way.
And the injuries. I mean, Derek Carr's back, which is good. They're much better with him there.
Well, that depends on who. Why don't you ask Michael Thomas?
Well, whatever.
Did you see that tirade of tweets on Sunday from him?
No. But
just running his mouth about how crappy Derek Carr is. Classic CD Carter wide receiver jibber jabber, as we always hear it.
Yeah, where do you play now, Michael Thomas? Where are you playing?
All right. That's kind of like Kadarius Toney running his mouth. Boy. Oh. Let's move on to some drops. Speaking of guys like Kadarius Toney and Michael Thomas, I think we're going to say here that Jordan Mason now has become officially droppable.
I did it myself. I actually did it before this week. Once I found out CMC was coming back, I dropped Jordan Mason everywhere I had him. He became my top guy to move off the roster. Yeah. No reason to play roulette there and hope that he gets production.
No, it's just not worth it. Patrick Mahomes turned in a really nice performance last night. Do you think this is a rebound, or do you think this is just kind of fool's gold? And
it could be a rebound, right? Having that other option at wide receiver helps him a lot, but he wasn't churning out great fantasy games when he had Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco healthy as well.
Right.
So I don't know. Their scheme doesn't seem like they want him to have to do this. It's just that's not what I think they want him to do. I know they feel like if you give us the ball with 30 seconds left, though, you're screwed. But I don't know. If I had him, I don't think I'd drop him now. I already did on a team I had him, but I think I'd keep him now. But I'd be wary about playing him because
I would too.
See some consistency first.
Well, their schedule, it's not like they have an easy schedule going forward, Mike. They've got Denver, then they're at Buffalo, Carolina, Vegas, and the Chargers, weeks 12, 13, and 14. Then Cleveland, Houston, and then Pittsburgh in the fantasy playoffs, in the fantasy championships. Those are matchups, those later season matchups are matchups I don't want him in the way he's playing now. Carolina and Las Vegas, those are games when maybe I would start him.
Well, and if Pacheco's back, then there's a lot of talk of how Kareem Hunt isn't very good. He's not very efficient. It's just the volume. Yeah, I don't care. It's fantasy. It's the volume.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt is a great play because of the volume. Yes, I love that. When Pacheco's back, he'll become the secondary back. He obviously won't get that kind of volume. The talk is that Isaiah Pacheco is coming back. Isaiah Pacheco is awesome, even though people don't want to admit it. He's awesome. And when he's in that lineup against some of those teams, especially the ones that funnel the run defenses because they all wanted to stop the pass, which explains the scheme Andy Reid did to run more, you're going to see them just pound the living daylights out of people, especially if they can switch it up and throw that heavy version of Kareem Hunt in there to be a battering ram too. They don't care if he only gets 3 yards. He gets it every time.
Right. And Kareem Hunt's not going to go away when Pacheco comes back.
No, he's going to continue to be the heavy version of him that he is and keep pounding the ball the way he is. Yeah, it's not efficient, but it works.
This is where Andy Reid is playing checkers, not chess, because he doesn't care how they win. And now, Kansas City is just simply a better running team than they are a passing team. And that's going to carry through because it's going to get them to the Super Bowl.
It sure looks it, doesn't it? I mean, when you talk about teams that are battle tested too, every game's a close game and they find a way to win every one. And people are like, well, it'll bite them eventually. What? So they lose 2 or 3 games? Yeah.
What do you do?
It's the most likable Chiefs team from being a non-Chiefs fan that they've ever had.
Oh, I agree.
I find them so likable now.
Well, my kid likes them better than the freaking Broncos, and we live in Denver. So I don't know what to do about that. Because Jen and I last night were sitting there rooting for Baker Mayfield, and he's like, "No, I want the Chiefs to win. Get out of my house. I know you're 7."
Oh man, Baker Mayfield's another person to root for. Great story.
I love Baker.
All over the league. Happy to see him have a home where he's playing well. I'm super happy about it.
I am too. All I want for Christmas, I asked for it last year, maybe this year I'll get it, is a Baker Mayfield creamsicle Bucks jersey. And not to sign, not to put up anywhere. I'm gonna wear that thing.
Wear that sucker.
I'm gonna wear that thing everywhere, kind of like I do with my TJ Watt jersey. I love it. Mike, I want to pop over to the chat here. We've got some questions I want to get to. The first one is from 3P1C Fail. Superflex redraft PPR. His quarterbacks are Burrow, Daniels, Russ Wilson, and Flacco. Wow, he is stacked at quarterback. His wide receivers are Nico Collins, Tyreek Hill, Deontay Tillman, and Coker. Someone offered him Josh Downs for Russ Wilson. Would you make that move given how stacked he is right now at quarterback?
Looks like Flacco's playing the rest of the season for the Colts. So I'd be willing to make that trade. You might want to see if you get a little bit more, but people have mixed opinions on Russ. I think we like him more than most people do.
Well, we do.
Yeah, that's not a bad trade at all.
No.
You need that stability at wide receiver. I don't think Deontay is going to continue to cook like he was doing for a while there. And Tyreek is going to be a little iffy. And again, not a talent thing, but just he's not getting the touches. Yeah. So I would probably make that move to stabilize that wide receiver room a little.
Well, you need Josh Downs more than you need Russell Wilson. And I'm completely on board with you. Yeah, that's a good deal.
Team better. That's the truth, right? You're making your team better.
Yep. KPP, is Dobbins for Collins an even trade? I need wide receivers, and I have a lot of running backs. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, honestly,
you're making out in that deal, in my opinion, but that's...
As we'd say on the Sirius XM show with Bob and Mike, bending them over a barrel.
Yeah. That's a great one.
This is his team here. So, yeah, we're going to say that that's a good deal. You can afford to lose Dobbins with B-Rob, Tracy, CMC. Jeff Rogers, I asked everyone everywhere, should I trade my D-Hop for Brian Thomas Jr.? And everyone said, hurry up and make that trade. Now look. I'm still okay with it.
I might still do it. That's what I was just going to say. I'd still be willing to do it. I understand any hesitation because of last night's game. That's one game.
It's one game.
Brian Thomas is the focal point of the offense for the Jags. So
yeah, do you guys remember how good Amari Cooper was his first game with Buffalo? And granted, he didn't play last week, but then he was just – that's how these things work. Yeah. Sometimes they probably worked well with D-Hop last night because the team didn't have time to scheme for him. So they were just kind of able to go out there and do what they could do with him. Teams are going to start scheming for these guys. So Herm's here saying QJ scored a 66-yarder on busted coverage. He didn't just figure it out. That's fair. But also, I mean, he's been more involved in the offense, and he's looking a little bit more pro-ready in my opinion.
For me, it's more the situation than just the play or plays.
Sure.
The situation looks better. I kind of like Josh Palmer has also came back since they started passing more, and he's a bit more involved. I don't think QJ's my top ad at wide receiver, right? Well, we said
no, it's Tillman.
Yeah, Tillman.
Yeah.
And after that, in all honesty, I prefer Leggett, but that's just me.
My concern with Leggett is he's in a worse offense. I like QJ in the better offense, but I think that's the only reason why. We've got MT2 in the chat. Cedric Tillman is the GOAT. I traded my 2025 first round pick for him. I don't hate this, and here's why.
I don't either. I love it.
Because draft picks are speculative. They have speculative value.
What's going to happen?
You never know what's going to happen. Let's talk about all the people who took Caleb Williams number 1 overall in their dynasty drafts, right? Probably not feeling super great about it right now. And because of that, I'm always willing to trade picks. With Cedric Tillman, this is only his second season in the NFL. He wasn't great last year, didn't get a lot of opportunities, but Deshaun Watson. And then this year he started out slow, not a lot of opportunities because why? Deshaun Watson. Now you've got Jameis Winston. Love him or hate him. You probably hate the 3 interceptions he threw on Sunday in the second half. But it didn't matter for Cedric Tillman. He still got volume. He's a young kid who's finding his niche in an offense that isn't going to change anytime soon. Stefanski's not getting
quarterback that's going to force the ball to him.
Yes. Long term, I think Cedric Tillman is a really good ad, and I think he will continue to have fantasy value. This Cleveland Browns team is going to be very different next year. I think there's going to be a lot of changes. I think Stefanski sticks around, but personnel-wise and GM-wise, I think they're going to start making some moves, and this is going to be a different team.
They have to. I mean,
they have to.
They made a bunch of mistakes with Watson and then what they brought in around him, hoping to be good. And maybe if Nick Chubb was healthy, it might have been different, but that's not how it played out, right? So.
Yep. Nino Pena in a 12-man redraft. Do you believe Jordan Mason and Xavier Worthy are both droppable? Mason, yes. Xavier Worthy at this point now, probably. He's a guy dynasty hold at this point.
In a 12-man redraft, I wouldn't have rostered Worthy. He was only really, he had 2 good weeks, week 1 and the other time he scored a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
So if you're playing him, you're sitting there praying and praying and praying and praying he gets touches, and he's not getting the touches.
Right. So. Tyler Sperry here wants to know our thoughts on Mike Williams, and I'm assuming he says Callie Hubbard, but Khalil Herbert. We kind of talked about it a little bit. Herbert's probably a guy you need to be adding. He's the number 1 waiver wire running back this week. Mike Williams, wait and see.
Wait and see on Mike Williams. Here, I'll give you another guy to watch. Noah Brown. Watch Noah Brown. He's had 2 weeks of 6 targets each in a row. I didn't want to throw him out there as an ad yet, but put a watch on him. See what happens this third week. He's still getting that kind of volume. We'll be talking about him next week.
He's a watch on in my waiver wire article for Optimus. So
he's going to be my weekend stash article. That's why I brought it up. And
I love it.
I'm not ready to add him right now myself, but I think you need to be watching what he does, because we know with opportunities, if you're willing to chuck the ball down the field, the kid catches it, right? Like Stroud last year. I mean, he'll go run down the field and get under it, and find it, right? And
make no mistake about it, this offense is just going to get better and better and better, and their defense just got a lot better. Adding Marshawn Lattimore, that impacts the offense. They're going to have the ball a little bit more now. I bet you their time of possession ticks up by a minute or 2. Just the first week Lattimore's there because of his impact and how
Daniel gets more confident every game as well.
Yep.
We don't just get more confident in him. He gets more confident every game as he's tearing up NFL defenses, right? Like and that's why you're seeing more downfield passes and stuff. The coaches trust him more, plus he's more confident. It's fun to watch this group.
It's so fun to watch. Tyler Sperry also wants to know Khalil Herbert or Roschon Johnson.
I want Khalil.
I'm with you. Because Khalil's going to see more volume. Roschon's seeing all that red zone volume. Yeah.
The potential's there for that. Roschon is the third down back and the goal line back, but he's just not getting many touches in that offense.
Well, they're not getting in the red zone that much.
I was just going to say, the whole offense just appears to crap out at times.
If we're talking about Roschon Johnson as a goal line back in Kansas City, if he's still getting those opportunities, different story. Jeff Rogers wants to know Steelers D or Chiefs D going forward, and what should I do with Jordan Mason? Drop Jordan Mason. I think we've already kind of covered that here. For me, it's going to be the Steelers defense rest away. How do you feel about it, Mike?
Steelers D rest of the way. Steelers D, people I think mostly are talking about the Vikings because they're basically the number 1 fantasy defense, right? And then you have the Broncos are one of the best real life defenses, also a top 3 fantasy defense. I'm pretty sure the Packers and Steelers are right behind them, with the Steelers is probably the 3rd. If you go and look in your league and you select all and defense and fantasy points for the season total, Steelers are probably 3, maybe 4. Yep. I would take them the rest of the way. I say that I have them on multiple teams rest of the way. So I'm living what I'm telling you.
I say that as someone who's got a Steelers on behind me,
literally right,
but also literally right behind my head. But TJ Watt Alex Hightower, Beanie Bishop, and Joey Porter Jr. That secondary with those two rookies is so much better than I thought it was going to be. And Beanie Bishop has just been a beast, a ball hawk. I want that. And they're starting to meld. And with the offense getting better, it's going to make the defense better.
They run the ball exceptionally well. I know people don't want to believe it, but they're doing a really good job running the football. Warren's back. I know they haven't used him that much, but even if he gets 30%, it helps the team. Adam Mike Williams is going to help that offense. That's only going to help the defense, just like we said, helping the defense on the other team helps the offense, right? So I like that Steelers deal a lot the rest of the way.
Yeah, I do too. Tyler Sperry with another question here. He wants to know Quentin Johnston or Xavier Legette, even though I think now Mike Williams will be better. Between Johnson and Legette, I'm probably going to go Legette. I think he's the only, outside of Adam Thielen, who else are they going to throw it to, really? That's
why I like Legette. He's getting that 6 targets a game, and he's doing something with them. He doesn't get a ton of yards, but he's getting touchdowns. He's probably the best wide receiver on that team. I know he's a rookie, but probably the best wide receiver on that team. I did not expect him to get. I didn't expect him to start and play like this coming into this season. It was a surprise to me.
Yeah, we love surprises. Yeah. I'm a big fan. MT2 at the 101 2025 Dynasty Draft. Would you rather have a running back like Jaunty or Sanders, even though I have May and Williams already? Value is higher for a quarterback to trade, etc., versus a running back at that draft capital. I really like Austin Jaunty. I don't follow a ton. I follow a fair amount of college football. Depending on your league, I'm probably going to lean this quarterback class. We got some good quarterbacks coming out. And then Quinn Ewers.
I tend to be the sucker who plays Dynasty to win if I can that season, every season. So I would look at my roster and be like, do I need the running back more? And what's his landing spot? Right? So you're drafting after the NFL draft. If he's landed in a place where he's going to start or be heavily involved, I want him. I'll take him.
Yeah.
If not, I might lean quarterback here too. They tend to be something you can easily trade away.
And quarterbacks just tend to retain value for longer.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, even if they're not getting playing time. Aaron Hudson, he's got Baker as his starter. He needs to drop Dak for someone. He's got Herbert, Wilson, Rodgers, and Daniel Jones available as decent options. Which one would you take? Also, would you trade Malik Neighbors for Collins and Rachaad White? So let's start with this first one. Who are you picking up? Because obviously Dak's done for the year.
I probably order them, and we didn't even talk about Herbert. We probably should have. But Wilson, Rodgers, and Herbert are pretty close, and then Daniel Jones last out of that group. And Danny Jones has this could change in 3 weeks, right? But right now, that's probably how I order them at quarterback. What about you?
I'm probably going to say Wilson, Herbert, Rodgers are right there, and Daniel Jones at the back. Yeah. Out of that group, I think for me, I feel like Wilson has the most upside.
I think so too.
So he's probably who I'd be targeting here. As for the trade, Neighbors for Collins and Rachaad White, I don't think I'd make that deal.
I'd probably keep Neighbors because his volume of 35% or whatever the hell it is so high, especially if you're playing in a PPR league. Collins,
it's PPR.
Yeah, Collins would be a great addition. When's he coming back? Rachaad White getting used in the passing game very well and led the team in snaps. And I was listening to SiriusXM Fantasy while driving today, and they were talking about that and how you shouldn't rule out White. You might want to trade for him. And I'm like, whoa. Not yet.
Can I guess? Was it roster watch?
Yeah, I think it was. Not yet. I wouldn't go dropping Rachaad White if I had him because of the passing game. But when Mike Evans comes back, this may change, right? And
yeah, it was probably Cody Carpentier Honestly, I know he and I have had many conversations about how much he loves Rachaad White. So
and that's fine. When he gets the volume, I like him too. When
me
he's
too.
not
Same
volume,
thing.
I don't.
Yeah, exactly. We've got Reese Bird on YouTube. Hey guys, 12-man PPR. League mate offered me Ray Davis. Has James Cook already for Mostert. Is this fair handcuff for handcuff? Should I ask for more or hold off and wait? I actually think that's a really fair handcuff for handcuff.
That's very fair.
Being able to get rid of Mostert and get Ray Davis back, I like that a lot. Yeah, Achan's just so freaking good. Right? Like, what are you going to...
he's better than I thought he would be, and he was my keeper league, and I didn't think he would be this good.
No, he's been phenomenal, but they have to have the run volume.
He still doesn't have a 100 yards rushing game this season.
I don't care. He's been phenomenal.
And it doesn't
matter.
It doesn't matter because he's like 90 yards and 70 yards receiving every game.
Right?
Like that. Yeah.
We have got Terrell T in the chat, Mike. 2 QB league. He's got Kyler, Hurts, and Tua. Someone wants Tua for Mike Evans. Should I do it? My 2 starting wide receivers are London and Higgins.
Yes.
Is Mike Evans playing this week?
I don't know, but he's coming back. At least we know he's going to come back. I would make that deal if my starting running backs were London and Higgins. But yes, you need to know if he's going to play because you could have all 3 guys out if you make this deal and he's not going to play.
So 4 weeks, MRI confirmed about a 4-week absence. That was 2 weeks ago. So we're probably 2 more weeks. Yeah. I probably wouldn't make that trade. I'd make it right now. Get Mike Evans, stash him, pick somebody else up on the waiver wire for a week or 2, wait for Evans to come back. I bet you Jaleel McLaughlin's available. I bet you Sterling Shepard's available. And for some weird reason, Cade Otton might also be available. I don't know how, but he's still not 100% rostered. And
I don't know how. I do know one show that got Cade Otton right.
I think I've watched it before. Those guys are handsome.
I don't even like the victory lap, but sometimes it feels good when we're talking about it, better than tweeting about it. Cade Otton.
Oh, yeah. Twitter. Don't even get me started.
Cade Otton was an easy pick.
Aaron Hudson saying, thanks for all the advice, guys. Very much appreciated. You're welcome. This is what we do.
We appreciate you.
Yes, thanks. Guys, if you're watching, please make sure to hit that like button on this video and subscribe to the channel. We're live 5 times a week. Mike and I every Tuesday for Waiver Wires. Tomorrow night, Herms and I are live at 9 p.m. Mountain Standard, 11 p.m. Eastern. Thursday, we've got more fun with myself and Casey Kasem. And then Fridays, we've got DFS and a mailbag show. You guys, you really don't want to miss it. We've got lots of fun there. Let's talk about some streaming defenses before we get out of here, Mike, because most people like to do that. We've got, I didn't update the streaming defenses, Mike.
Oh, no.
That was my job. It's all right. I'll tell you who I like this week. I can tell you right now, I like Denver's defense every single week. This is a defense, if they're out there, I want to be grabbing. Outside of that, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, these are defenses that I really do think long-term, they've got a lot of value. It's a tough landscape with defenses, and it's hard to know because really what you're chasing are turnovers and low point totals.
So the Chargers have a nice matchup this week against Tennessee too, right? So
yeah, I like that matchup.
The Bears are playing the Patriots, and the Patriots do turn the ball over quite a bit.
A lot.
I do believe we talked about the Giants against Carolina earlier. I would have included them.
We did.
Streamer as well. So
yep.
Carolina's, we know, not very good. The Giants defense, surprisingly, is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Not great, but pretty good. So, I mean, the Bears defense is very good. They've had it tough the past couple of weeks, but they played Washington and Arizona against teams that are not so good and cough up the ball a lot, like Tennessee and Carolina. Double-digit fantasy points against both of those teams. You're probably going to see that against the Patriots.
I would be interested in streaming Buffalo's defense in Indy. We saw Flacco kind of melt down last week. Maybe Buffalo's defense can force that again, get a turnover or two. Outside of that, I think we kind of hit everybody who's really viable this week anyway for streaming.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. And with that, guys, we're going to get out of here. We've been here for almost an hour. Very unusual of us, but lots to talk about.
Yeah.
Lots of questions, which we love that. We do have one more. We're going to throw this up here before we get out of here. Aaron Hudson wants to know, would you rather stream one of those defenses or pick up the Steelers and play them rest of season? Steelers, rest of season, period. Yeah.
That's almost our mantra of this show. Yes, Steelers, rest of season.
Steelers, rest of season. Yeah. And tomorrow night, myself and the one and only CH Herms, who you have seen in this chat today, will be live around 11 p.m. Eastern. That show's a little flexible, but we have fun with it. Then we have got myself and Casey Kasem here on Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern for the flagship show. We're going to have post-waiver ads, start sits, bold predictions, and Thursday night football preview with some favorite bets and some fantasy starts and sits there. Then Mike is going to be riding solo for the DFS show this week, Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, DFS Live. He's going to lock it down while I am out of town for the weekend. And then after that, the live Q&A show, 6 p.m. Eastern. We don't know who's going to be there yet, but I promise we'll figure it out. I just found out I'm going to be out of town today. So
we'll carry it. Don't worry about it.
I know. I'm not worried about it. You guys are experts.
I'm sorry I can't stay up till 11 to watch. This old man falls asleep before that.
I don't know how I don't fall asleep before the show starts, but I don't. Now, guys, if you miss all of those shows this week with all of our sage advice, find us on Reddit Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Up until kickoff, we'll be answering your questions. It's a voracious crowd over there. Lots of good advice, not just from us, but from the entire community. 3.2 million people strong on Reddit, r/fantasy football. Get over there and check it out. And this is the last time I have to say this. Get out and vote, guys.
Yes, please.
This is a very important election. Whichever way you're going to vote, make your vote be heard.
And then go watch the movie Idiocracy. And
yes.
Lots of things will start making sense to you.
Yeah. Or maybe watch it before you go vote if you have time. The clocks are running out here, man. There's only 4 hours left here. So, yeah, we just want to make sure you guys all get out and vote. And with that, Mike, thank you so much for joining me on this fun waiver wire ride. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in with us, dropping all those questions. One more time, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the Optimus Fantasy Football channel 5 times a week. All of the advice you need. For Mike Reedy, I'm Nate Polvogt. We will see you next week.